doing here? And for very obvious reasons, this is the theme of the TED talk that I would like to deliver, around which I'll give a concept and I'll include my personal experiences that I had in life. Society is that apparently it was created before the state came into existence, and also that it does not have any coercive powers. This is exactly what I wanted you to be thinking about in society as a concept, and we would like to be on this page all through the discussion as far as this word is concerned. Coming next to the state. Contrary to society, the state has been created by the society. It's a construct of the society. It's not an independent existing body. It has been constructed by the society for the purposes of resolving the conflicts which the society faces at times. And the state has been given a mandate to resolve the conflicts, let the society progress. And to that end, society has given surrendered some of its rights to the state, which we call the coercive part of the face of the state. Now, we come to the third part, and why I talk about state is that in my life I found I worked for 37 years in the most coercive arm of the state, that is the police. I'll keep referring to it in my talk. The third aspect is spiritualism. I would like to emphasize right at the beginning, it does not have anything to do with religion. Spiritualism, when I use this word throughout my talk, I am using it in the sense of a state of mind where you are seeing everything as one. Even the conflicts are seen in harmony. If you can reach that stage of mind where jarring notes are seen as and heard as melodious sounds, you have reached a stage in spiritualism. Now, spiritualism, there are various people who have reached this state of mind. It's a very difficult state of mind to reach. It requires a lot of practice. And there are various people, there are not many, but in this society you will find various people who have reached this state, and they have reached it through their own means. And very surprisingly, the means that I got to was mathematics. I'll come to this slide later. Why I say mathematics is that from my high school days, I got into this physics business. Physics, university, again physics, and got attached to it, and in the process I learned the process of analyzing things, breaking the whole into parts, and those parts were to be analyzed, their reasons, causality principle and principle of logic, all that was applied. So then by the time I studied physics at the university level, I realized that I was almost missing out on the whole. I was always looking at the parts. And then I realized I had a tryst with mathematics through something called mathematical physics. I realized that this was the tool which helped me to synthesize things rather than analyze. Because I'll ask you a question, you are all in the technology institutes. Suppose somebody asks you, what is common amongst things like breathing, occurrence of droughts, and maybe depressions in economics. Now you will jump up and say, now I can't see anything common among these three things. They are all different things and they all have their own domains of study. A mathematician comes up and he says, no, there is something common, they occur very periodically, and so therefore you can use a tool in mathematics called the Fourier transform to study all three of them almost like through a single tool called Fourier transform. Now this is something which struck me, and I developed this training of mind using mathematics to understand things in one. Spiritualism was the thing. Now, when I started studying, looking at things and very diverse things, nothing in common, maybe even conflicting things, I realized that I could do it and understand all of them through one process. Look for that one cause which gives rise to all of them. Here was, mathematics and physics and everything fine. The university ends, and as destiny would have it, I got into something called the Indian Police Service and had to join a state called Bihar, which by all standards is almost like of the size of many of the European countries and faced with more difficult problems than even those countries, especially in the area of law and order and crime. I was given an opportunity on two things. One, seeing crimes of all types, right from simple crimes like properties and burglaries and thefts and robberies, to riots, caste, communal, to extremist activities, to terrorist activities, to all types of violent things. And the more I saw of it, the more I realized that every time violence took place, it was lost to society. The state had failed, at least in that event, to complete and to live up to its mandate that was given by the society. Having said this, I realized that I was looking at all of them through a separate lens. And then my training in mathematics, as I said, finding out one cause which explains all of them, I was looking for it all through. And by the time I had finished half of my career in the police, I realized that one thing which was pushing all the crimes was black money. Generating black money is the effect of crime, and then it also fuels crime. So it became a cause and an effect. This, when I realized this, by the time I had reached a sufficiently senior level of police hierarchy, where I could talk to the political leaders. Why I say this word is because they call the shot as far as policy making of the state is concerned. I had the opportunity to talk to them, convince them that this approach has to be taken if crime has to be checked. As if violence was not enough, we had things like Ponzi schemes, we had things like financial scams, corruption. So again, loss to the society, and again can be considered to be a failure of the state to provide an ambience for the society to grow. I talked to them, and it was the common thing was check black money, and therefore policing should not be only about getting people, convicting them, catching hold of them. So not only this, but confiscating their property. Laws were made, efforts were made in this direction, and then I realized that this happened around 2004-2005. The results started coming in. I won't say that the results were very spectacular, but the results were such that it began to get noticed. You will read in the first thing, the Planning Commission report of 2012. It called Bihar a good performing state when for the years when I was earlier in the service, very rarely did I hear very good comments about the state of Bihar. And then suddenly these comments started coming up. A lot of people got into the state. They started studying as to what was happening. They got curious. Books were written, reports were written, even the World Bank team came over. And then I realized that this capacity to pinpoint one thing, go after it, and try to address that issue is the major thing that has to be done. If one starts doing that, then the chances are that one will be able to check and complete the mandate for the state that the society had given. By this time, I had almost come to the end of my career in the police. I realized that what I was doing was pushing the strong arm of the police, law, the coercive power of law, and then trying to get the results. It was also realized that at the international level also, I tried to bring up this picture at the international level, try to study and find out. I don't have any personal experience about the international level, but when I got the data at the international level through the net, this is what it reads like. Conflicts all over the world. This has been done by some agency which I found on the net. And the important thing is the violence has costed $14.3 trillion in 2014, and it was written that it takes 13% of the world's GDP, which only indicates that this phenomenon is not only particular to Bihar, it's spread all over the world, and it appears that the state has not been able to live up to the mandate that it has been given by the society. At this stage, I came across certain situations as a very top police officer, almost heading the state police force, when I was faced personally with situations where no less than a police firing could have contained the situation. I tried to argue with them. Thousands of people, very violent and demanding something like incarceration of the district SP, the district magistrate, and things like that, with weapons in their arms, almost single-handedly without using the coercive power of the state. I tried to reason out with them, and then it took me some time. They finally agreed to my viewpoint and they melted. This happened on a number of occasions. I started wondering as to how is it that I was not using the coercive power of the state, which I was most authorized to do, and only arguing out how is it that they were able to, or they were willing to accept my viewpoint, the persuasive part of it. And the answer I got was from the young guys in the crowd. Later I had called them and talked to them, and they said, "Sir, it was not your image as a top police officer which was working. It was your image as a man who created this Abhayanand Super 30. And you taught so many of these young, poor children, talented children, that people take you on your words." Now this is something which struck me as very remarkable. The coercive power is not functioning. The coercive power is getting blunt. The state is wanting more and more power to fulfill the mandate that has been given to it by the society. And I realized through my experience that this power has been blunted. The people who use this power, it is their impression, their image that makes it either effective or non-effective. So the thing that I am almost about to conclude is that it is more the moral authority that counts and not the coercive power of the state. That brings me almost to the question. I started with 3 English words, and now I'll try and give you 3 English questions. These questions I have gathered through all my experience, which I have recounted in a brief thing. these are the two questions, and the third one comes into the next slide. Is the state gradually failing? This is a very difficult question to answer. But if you see the losses, both in terms of physical violence and in terms of the economic losses that are being incurred through financial scams and corruption, spread all over. The volume is so large that if the state had been just able to ideally ensure those losses do not occur, the society would have flourished. Society would have gone much better. Now the question is, has the state underperformed? Is it failing? Has it overreached? But these are questions. The next one, is it time for the society to sit back and reassess as to what it has given to the state and what is it that the state is giving back to society? Now these are questions which are very basic questions. The next question is, does the answer lies somewhere in this question? I wish I knew this answer. Unfortunately, I don't. But I am convinced completely, having seen almost every part of the functioning of the society, the state, and my training initially as an undergraduate in physics, having done mathematics to see things as done and try to find out where the actual fault lies, and all these are only manifestations of one cause, and that cause I have already talked about. The issue is, do we need people who can understand things as one, or do we need people who are on through fissures in this age and who survive through creating bigger fissures? Thank you very much.